So Chris wins the lag. Let's see what break he's opting for. He's breaking off his hand, with his hand on the slate bed of the table. You see many different forms of break shots. Yeah, and that's going to work out nice. Nice and powerful, straight down the middle. And he's got a good look at the 1 ball, 2 balls, nice. 3 ball at a glance. Looks like it needs a little bit of care, but I think it goes down into the corner. So this is a good chance.
Mosconi Cup debut in Coventry in 2020. Heavy defeat for the Americans, but he acquitted himself reasonably well and didn't do too badly on his second appearance at Alexandra Palace last December. So it's a bit of a mystery why he hasn't achieved more in events like this as part of the Matchroom schedule, because he is highly rated in terms of his capabilities. He seems to cope pretty well with the Mosconi environment. At a poor World Championship. Lost both of his matches there.
Yeah, he's just going to get the cue ball sort of into the centre of the table, just to the right of centre, and he should be okay. He's actually walking around the bottom end of the table just to look at this 3 off the 7.
It's a done deal for Oliver Shalnocki on the other feature table. He has beaten the snooker player Fraser Patrick from Scotland by 9 racks to 2. Very comfortable win for him in the end. Only took him just over an hour to advance.
Yeah, that's a good positional shot for Chris. Chooses a little bit of left English to kind of spear the ball into the pocket. Doesn't matter who you are, how many racks of pool you've played, there's nothing like a break and run in the first rack to settle you down.
Yeah, and Reinhold is really looking to assert himself early on in the match here. He knows he's the favourite to win it, but he also knows he's up against a capable opponent. Pia Filler steadily enhancing her reputation in the women's game, but she's also had some good results at this level. Got to the last 64 of the World Championship last month.
Nice shot there. Chose to use 3 rails just to guarantee the obvious position.
Well, the lag can be so important. Chris Reinhold won it easily, and that's enabled him to make an ideal start to the match. Break and run from the American. He leads 1-0. Chris Melling in a bit of trouble on table 6. His Irish opponent Ian McCormack is on the hill now at 8-5. Alex Kazakis, very comfortable though against Rich Saunders. The former World Masters champion from Greece is now leading 5-0. Another Greek player, Nikos Economopoulos, 2-0 up on Riku Romponen of Finland. And Viktor Zielinski, the highly rated Polish player, Now 7-1 up against British player John Ballard. Roman Hebler on the hill now against Dean O'Neill at 8-3.
Yeah, Ian McCormack's just missed a ball for the match there, so Mellon's still alive in that match. Biggest shock of the day, Ko Ping-yi has been sent to the left side of the draw.
Yeah, and Ko Ping Chung in a bit of bother as well. He's 4-3 down at the moment against Kevin Simpson. Well, this is a good effort anyway, but not quite good enough, so it looks as though Pia Filler is going to get to the table here.
Trying to play this thin and just brush it up towards the 9, create distance, nice shot. However, where's the 9 ball going? It doesn't look far away from this corner pocket, does it? That's what Pia's straight round to look at. There is a little gap in between the 2 and the 9. This is going to go close. So 9 ball, top right pocket. Can Pia get the quick win? She can't. Where's he going to finish? Well, Chris has got a really easy lock-up safe if he chooses to play defensive. Chris would have liked the cue ball to be tight on the 6. This would have took this rail away. Now Pia can hit this rail just after the side pocket. She'll have a good chance of hitting this ball. If the cue ball was frozen on the 6, well, it would have made this shot a lot harder. Over on table 2, Gary Wilson is just getting ready to start his match. He's got a tough little match there. He's playing Chris Alexander. Chris is not really known around the world to the viewers, but he's a capable player, and I think that's what we're seeing, Michael, at this event. We're seeing a few of the British players who are good cueists, who don't really have the big stage experience, but this is what it's all about. This is what Emily was trying to achieve, to see if there's a buzz in the UK for 9 ball pool. Pia's missed a kick, so the safety is good enough for Chris. He's got ball in hand.
Yeah, not been a good day for the snooker players so far, as we were saying. Defeats for Martin Gould and Fraser Patrick. So Gary Wilson looking to reverse that. And Chris Melling, of course, who has been on the snooker tour himself and played to a pretty high level. He's in danger, as we were saying, against Ian McCormack, trailing 8-6.
Are you familiar with Luke Garland at all? Because I've never heard of the name. I've never actually seen him. I went over to watch the end of his match against Ko Ping-yi, and then I spoke to a few people, and they were saying, oh, he was a very highly rated amateur snooker player a few years ago. That's all I know.
Yeah. Don't think he's been in quite the same sort of bracket as even Fraser Patrick, shall we say. Most of the British players you find, not all of them by any means, but most of them you find have played snooker to some sort of level. talking about finding out if there's a buzz for Nineball in the UK. I mean, that was really how the Mosconi Cup started. It was brought in almost as an exhibition to introduce Nineball to the British market, which hadn't really embraced it in any significant way up to that point. And now, obviously, that's been successful to the point where we can have an event like this.
The 6 just wobbles in. It wasn't clean, and the cue balls fell on the rail, but the 9 ball's right in the centre of the table, so this is not going to cause any harm for Chris. Chris Mellin has just won another rack. He now trails Ian McCormack 8-7. Something about the big-time players who just always seem to find a way to win, even if it's with a little bit of help from their opponent. Can he pull that one out of the bag, trailing 8-7?
Played very well on the main table yesterday, Chris Mellin. And another Chris off to a good start on this table today. Reinhold, very comfortable so far. He leads Pia Filler 2-0. Ko Ping Chung still having early struggles. 5-3 now he trails against Kevin Simpson. Rich Saunders has at least avoided the whitewash against Alexander Kazakis. He's got a rack on the board, so it's 5-1 there now. Now you can see some other results going through. Maybe pick out some of your own favourites. Shane Wolford, American player, highly rated by Jeremy Jones, the US Mosconi Cup captain. Wolford leading Dave Hopkin 4-2. And Abdullah Al Youssef still not over the line against Alexander's Horsons. It's 8-6 now. Alban Ocean was another player who looked like he might be on course for a whitewash. Not going to happen now. Even Coelho has got one on the board, but it's 7-1. So comfortable enough for the recent World Championship runner-up. And Victor Zielinski has completed a very straightforward win over home player John Ballard, winning by 9 racks to 1. Back here, not the start Reinhold was looking for to the 3rd rack.
Yeah, the dreaded random ball kisses the cue ball into the drink, so Pia with ball in hand. And you just feel, even though it's early stages, it's a must-win rack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She is very much the outsider in the match, although not someone whose chances you would write off by any means. But for sure, any good opportunity, she's got to have a very high conversion rate. And just one more result to tell you. Roman Hebler of the Czech Republic has completed victory over South African Dino Nair out on table 23 by 9 racks to 4. And Abdullah Al Youssef is through now. He's closed it out at 9-6 against Alexander's Horsons.
She's a nice cueist, this Pia. Obviously, she travels to all the events with Josh, and you know, often you see her hitting a few balls backstage on the practice tables, just, you know, having a bit of fun. And of course she's been to the Mosconi Cups with Joshua, so I've watched her play a fair bit.
Well, she was in attendance at the Premier League in Milton Keynes back in February, which Joshua Filler almost won, beaten in the final by Alban Ocean. And over the last few days of that event, when there were fewer players there, she actually seemed to be spending more time on the practice table than any of the guys who were playing in the event. She's had her own success recently. She won the 8-ball at the European Championships in Slovenia a couple of months back. Beat one of the home contingent, Anna Gradiznik, in the final. She almost won the straight pool as well, but lost in the final to Amalia Matas of Spain. Then, as I said, she went to Milton Keynes for the World Championship and had a decent enough run there.
She needs to pay a bit of care to this shot, though. This is a traditional 9-ball pool shot. You've got to play this with spin, fire it down the rail, and She could maybe hold the cue ball over to the left side of the table, but you've got to really cue that softly to hold the cue ball. That's what she's looking at. If she chooses to hit this a little bit firmer, the cue ball might bounce off 2 rails, so she can play the 7 in the top left. But let's see what she's decided. Yeah, she went with that last option. It's all about an angle. Oh, this is lovely. This is lovely. Good shot, Pia. Same again here. She might play 1 rail and come down. She might decide to play with a little left English and go off 2. So she's chose the 1. It's all about pace. She'd like this to keep rolling. Just okay. She's probably going to need the extension on the cue. Not only is this big for Pia and her confidence just to run the table, but it'll just send a little message to Chris saying, listen, you're going to beat me. You're going to have to play good.
Yeah, and also the message that, well, if something does go wrong for you, or you do make a mistake, or even have a bit of misfortune, I will make you pay for it.
This is awkward though. You can see she's at full stretch. Oh, she's handled that very well indeed.
So the scratch on the break gave Pia Filler the sort of opportunity she didn't really have in the first couple of racks. She's taken it with both hands. And it is so important, isn't it, Carl, when you're the underdog in a match, get that first rack on the board as quickly as possible. We've seen players here go 3, 4, 5-0 down, and even then when they do get a chance, it looks as though their hopes have been blown out by then already, and they're so anxious to make that impact that they're not able to take those opportunities. So important for her to get that done early.
Absolutely. She's going to just settle Pia down, and she's definitely in this match. This is not as one-sided as people may think.
Yeah, the match we've been keeping an eye on. Chris Melling still battling away against Ian McCormick. It's still 8-7 to the Irishman there.
Yeah, Melling's at the table though, and he's on the 9-ball. It's the beauty of where we're sat. We can see all around the arena. And it's gone hill, that match. Pia needs this 2-ball to bounce. Awkward cueing. This is not going to be easy at all. It's a little nasty one. Over on table 2, Chris Alexander takes the first rack against Gary Wilson.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, but it could be the decisive shot of the rack. I mean, if she could get the cue ball back to somewhere around about where it is now, and obviously pot the 2 at the same time, she'd be favourite for 2-2.
Yeah, if Pia plays this a little slower, because she's trying to hold for the 3, if she does miss the ball, the 8-ball might come and save her. It's kind of in that position where it might help.
I don't think the 8 has come to her rescue there. So now it falls to Reinhold. If he can pop the 2 and get on the 3, he'd be a big favourite for the rack. But with a shot like this, you can never guarantee what the cue ball's going to do, Carl.
Yeah, you can definitely go rail first. So potting the 2 is easy, but it's all about the 3 ball. So he's decided just to leave distance, leave himself a shot on this 3. That's always a wise move.
Yeah, make sure of the pot as the priority, and at the very least of the control of the table to play the next shot.
Now, can he play this 2 rails and miss the 9 and miss the purple 5?
Well, he managed to miss the 9 anyway, but he didn't do either of the other parts. Okay, so it's all worked out pretty well for Pia Filler in the end. Again, though, coming in and out of the jaws like this, you can never really predict exactly what the cue ball is going to do. So the first shot of this visit could be the most significant one.
Yeah, Pia could also maybe just flick the rail first. And what that does is it means the cue ball, after glancing the 3, it'd go up, but she's aiming low, so maybe she's just going full ball off the 1. Yeah, that's fine, good shot. She needs an angle though, just because the 7 doesn't pass the 9. So she might have to roll forward with the cue ball and play the 7 in the left centre. Melling's at the table. Of course, we know you can't see this, but we're going to bring it you through the comms. He's on the 9 ball. And he's won the match, Hill. Ian McCormack had a chance to win that match. He missed. And as always, the good players seem to close the match out. Melling survives. He's still in the winner's bracket.
Man, he'll proceed in that bracket with the sense of relief and confidence after turning it round from such an unpromising position. Been doing very well in the 8-ball scene recently, but he's been talking about wanting to get a bit more focus back onto 9-ball. So many big events coming up.
Pia has made sure of the pot, but she's kind of forgot about the cue ball. This looks to have landed just a little bit awkward. If the cue ball had rolled through to the kitchen line, this would have been, well, it would have been a lot easier than this. She's drawing the cue ball back. Got to be careful you don't scratch in the side. And that's just okay. Just needs to take care with this one. But this is for 2-2. Chris missed the ball in this rack.
Reinhold's scratch off the break at the start of the previous rack has proved to be a mini turning point for now. From 2-0 down, Pia Filler has recovered to 2-2. Over on the other feature table, Gary Wilson is closing in on levelling at 1-1. Wilson, who was in the final of the British Open snooker in Leicester last August, gave Mark Williams a really good contest. And Pia Filler is giving Chris Reinhold a decent contest in the early stages here. It's 2-2. Not a bad outcome to that break, Carl.
No, this is a wonderful chance now to put some early pressure on Chris. He's going to start to feel it. He's been known to get a little shaky out there. And just looking at these balls, they're split really good, aren't they? It's the first thing you sort of glance after the break. You just have a quick scan of the table, see what you're faced with. 7 and the 8 ball are close together, so that's going to be easy work. Doesn't need to do anything silly here. She's having a good look, but just pot your ball and just give yourself that little window through them 2 balls there, the green and the purple. Yeah, that's fine. I think she was contemplating trying to get a little closer to her work, but she didn't need to. 2 options here. She could just draw out. The only problem with that shot is you can get a little bit too much spin on the ball and overdo it. Well, she could play thin and go off 2 rails. Oh, she's cueing all right though. Every shot's in plumb position, so drawing that ball out, she couldn't ask for that to be in a better position at all.
During one of our earlier matches today, we were talking about the whole scene of money matches in the United States. Well, she was involved in a big one in Virginia back in October against April Larson. She played a $12,000 money match. Now, that would be the sort of money she wouldn't be accustomed to playing for, but she managed to win it. And something like that really stands to you in terms of the ability to play and perform under pressure. Ko Ping Chung has turned it around a bit against Kevin Simpson. He's now leading at 6-5. Shane Wolford on the hill against Dave Hopkin. He's leading 8-2. And Mark Maggi also on the hill against the British player Arfan Dad. That one is 8-5. Bart Shapler of Poland has handed out a whitewash to Britain's James Lee. That's finished 9-0.
Oh, this has gone wrong for Pia. She didn't need to be all the way up there. This is awkward from what looked like a great opportunity. Now she's got serious work to do here.
Well, this will be a real early test of how she's feeling.
You can see how she's striking down. This makes everything awful. This is a nasty one. Oh, it was a good effort. It's just not quite come back far enough for Pia. I don't think she can chop this ball in. If she can, she's got to get the cue out of the way. Otherwise, it'll be a foul, the double hit.
And the cue ball could finish almost anywhere playing the shot that way.
I think she's got to play safe here. I think she's got to come off the edge of it, get the cue ball on the top rail, and get the 8 on the bottom rail. She's having a good look though. She probably feels like she can pot it, but it's getting the cue out of the way. Oh, I'm not sure what she's attempted there. I can only think she's tried to play safe.
Well, that looks to be this rack gone, and just that little bit of momentum she was building. slips away. It's a good chance in that rack. Wasn't really that shot that was the problem, was it? She had run herself into a bit of trouble prior to that.
Yeah, she didn't even really look at the safety. That was what was a little bit concerning. It was like she was being a bit stubborn to herself.
Yeah, you could see she was trying to talk herself into playing it, playing the pot. It hasn't worked out for her, so Chris Reinhold regains the lead at 3 racks to 2. Alexander Kazakis is on the hill now, 8-2. He leads Rich Saunders. Well, he's obviously gone in as a big favourite to win that match, and it's turning out every bit as comfortable as you might have expected. Oscar Dominguez leading Danny King 4-1. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, who of course went over to the loser's side yesterday and pretty close to going out of that as well. Well, he's playing David Zalman of the Czech Republic. That one is just getting underway, so that's one to keep an eye on. Shane Wolford, I was telling you, he's going well. He's on the hill, 8-3 against Dave Hopkin. And Omar Al-Shaheen, runner-up in the World Championship last year, has a 4-0 lead over the Italian Luca De Carolis. Chris Reinhold then back in front at 3-2 as he breaks in rack 6.
Possible bank shot if he fancies that. 3 balls the next ball, so he's going to have to get the cue ball down table, or he could play a real easy safety, get the 1 ball in behind the 9 and the 8, and maybe try and send the cue ball into the pink 4. And there you go, perfectly played, good shot.
And now set to reap the rewards. As you may well be aware, he was playing under the name Chris Robinson until round about this time last year, and then changed his surname. It's his stepfather, Jared Reinhold, the man who raised him. He decided to officially change his name. The latest in a long line of prominent players to come from California, the likes of Rodney Morris and Corey Jewell, both Mosconi Cup MVPs, part of that.
It was a strange shot he played there, but it's actually worked out so good for him. He can just cut this ball in the middle, and just looks like he can float in between the brown 7 and the green 6, but I don't know why he tried to move it from where he was. It was a little steeper than what it looked, so it looked like he had to go into the balls, and not sure what he's faced with here. If the 4 ball passes the 6 and it's the brown 7 full, he'll try and pop the purple 5. This is day 2 of the UK Open Nineball Championships. Biggest shock of the event so far. Ko Ping Yi has been sent to the loser's side. That's the left side of the draw by Luke Garland, an unknown British player. What a win that is for Luke.
Ko Ping Chung faring much better though. He was in trouble against Kevin Simpson of Britain, but he's now leading 8-5. And Alexander Kazakis has just completed his win in the last few moments. I told you he was on the hill. He's comfortably through. Well, what's Reinhold been left with here, Carl?
Well, answers on a postcard, Michael. Looks impossible to hit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's very rare you use that word, but I think it's appropriate here. I was even sharing a joke with Pia Filler about that. So what do you even attempt to do here?
Well, he was at first looking just to see if he could tie a ball up, just to make the run out a little more difficult for Pia, but even that looks impossible. He's having a good look, isn't it? It all depends on how much of this rail he can see. He could play a masse shot, something, well, you just don't see. That's where he would hit it into the rail with loads of spin. He's trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4 rails. Yeah, it was just an impossible task. You won't see a better safety than that all week. And now it's a good chance for Pia to put that last rack behind her. Because when you make a mistake at this game, you never know how many racks it can really cost you.
She's had a lot of good runs, going very deep in various women's events over the last 12 months or so. She had a very good record in the Euro Tour events when that came back last year. In fact, the very first event back in Austria last June, she almost won it. The resumption after the COVID delay. She was only beaten 7-5 in the final of the first event by Anna Gradiznik. And she got to a couple of semi-finals in Italy and Slovenia later in the season. And she was also runner-up to Kelly Fisher in the inaugural Women's US Straight Pool Championship late in the year.
Yeah, one thing Pia will possess, you would think she's going to have a good temperament, because you're not going to practice with Joshua Filler every day and not gain a good temperament. She'll have seen it all, wouldn't she, playing with Josh 5-6 days a week.
Probably spends a lot of time sitting down though. But yeah, I mean, there's no question she'll be learning a huge amount from him, even in conversations with him about how to handle various aspects of the game, the mental side and all the rest of it.
And there he is, watching his wife.
Well, let's be fair, we hardly ever see one of Josh's matches that we don't see Pia next to the table looking on, so only fair that he repays the service.
I wonder if Josh wants her to win, though.
I was wondering that myself. I mean, for the match in itself, of course, but the prospect of playing against her. I mean, what a strange feeling that is. We've seen various scenarios like that in Q Sports over the years, particularly in snooker. You've had father and son matches. Neil Foulds, when he won his one and only ranking event, played his father along the way. He said it was absolutely horrible. He never wanted to do it again. Pia Filler hanging in nicely here. Passed up a good chance in the previous rack. Not in this one, though. She's level once again at 3 each.
Are we going to get to see the match of the tournament? Filler versus Filler. She's still in this match. We all want to see it.
Mark Maggi of Estonia has won 9-7 against the British player Arfan Dad. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz over on the loser side is 2-0 up against David Zalman of the Czech Republic. Kyle Akalu of South Africa on the hill against Radoslav Babica of Poland. It's 8-5 in that one. Robbie Capito from Hong Kong, 7-4, he leads Stephen Ellis. Ko Ping Chung now on the hill against Kevin Simpson at 8-5. Well, from the other featured table, Gary Wilson lost the opening rack to Chris Alexander, turned it round to lead 2-1. It's 2-all now, though, and Alexander just needs the 6 and the 9 to lead 3-2. 3-all here. So it's come up dry. She's left the 1, and this is always going to be a problem for Pia Filler, isn't it, Carl? The break-off is really not a strength for her.
It's not, but when you use the template, it does make the break easier, so it does take somewhat of the skill away from the best breakers in the world. So that does play into her favour. This is a little stretchy one, you can just see he's stretching over the balls, but he does that a lot, does Chris. He just sort of takes what the table is handing him. He doesn't try and do something a little bit more fancy to get closer to his next ball.
I was talking about the big money match that Pia Filler played late last year. Well, Reinhold has just come off the back of an even bigger one in terms of the money at stake. Played a $50,000 match against Shane McMinn in Ohio just a few weeks ago and won it.
Table 2, if you're not watching that table, Gary Wilson, snooker player, he's playing Chris Alexander, and it's 3-2 to Chris. That match is available on the Matchroom Pool YouTube channel. Oh, this is a good effort. Needs a big bounce. Not going to get there though, Michael. So this is not over yet, this rack. I think he's going to be playing safe. Yeah, me and Michael had a little chat before this match, and we kind of felt it was going to go at this type of pace, didn't we? We knew it wasn't going to be one-sided. He was trying to get the cue ball in behind the 5.
Yeah, well, it feels like there's a lot of tension in the match already, and this is only at 3-all. Imagine if we're still here in an hour and a half from now, and it's getting close to the finish and still this tight.
Yeah, I wonder what Pia's going to do here. I think she's just going to roll this slow. Well, that's what it looked like at first. And just roll it into the 7. It's actually quite awkward. She can't really play off the left side as we're looking. because often when you do that you hit it too thick, and plus, having said that, if she hits it thin the cue ball would probably go into the 7. She could play into it pretty full, and the top spin on the cue ball might sort of spin off the rail and into the 9, and hope the 4 would go up table. Or she could just go for the cut. Distance always helps a little bit, doesn't it? Whenever you leave your opponent a little bit of distance and something to do. Like now, Chris, I don't think he can avoid hitting the black 8 after potting this 4.
Just watching Pia Filler there, Carl, and it's not the first time I would have felt this. It all looks a bit laboured with her, and she spends a little too long thinking things out and maybe gets in her own way a bit mentally. Do you think she could do with speeding up a bit, or is that just her natural pace?
I think because I played quite natural and quick, I would always prefer that style. But if you look at the greats like Ralph Souquet, that type of player, they just seem to take that little bit more time, don't they? So it's not really for me, but I sort of appreciate why they do it. But yeah, I think when they're all dead open and easy, she knows how to play. Maybe she should play a bit more instinctively. Chris was trying the bank shot there. Full table draw. Now, how good is your cueing, Pia Filler? This is a little tester, full length. She's got to draw back for the purple 5.
Yeah, and that's obviously added a bit of pressure to the pot itself. She was nowhere near it, really. And a chance for Reinhold to regain the lead.
Yeah, she didn't really draw the cue ball backing off. She was trying to get that cue ball all the way back to that top rail.
And you know, we're talking about the prospect of Filler versus Filler in the next round. Well, it's a bit of an incentive for Reinhold in itself, isn't it? Because he's trying to take that step up to get closer to the top players. And of course, the best way to do that is to play them in a big match. You have to feel, if he was to play Joshua Filler, that would probably be on the main table, certainly on one of the feature tables, you would think. So that's a big opportunity for him.
Yeah, from one Filler to the other. It's not the easiest of tasks, but it's like you mentioned about Pia. Chris is very similar, isn't he? All the balls look very easy, but everything's very deliberate, and you know, it's all making sure and take your time.
Yeah, and as much as anything, you end up taking so much out of yourself mentally that can count against you towards the end of a long match, and in particular, if you do get to the later stages of a tournament, you've mentally exerted yourself so much, you might not be able to produce your best when you get there. So it's another rack where Pia Filler was not without opportunity. She did lead in this match. Now it's 4-3. Over on the other feature table, 3-all between Gary Wilson and Chris Alexander. Wilson, though, with a good chance to get back into the lead there. Ko Ping Chung still trying to get through against Kevin Simpson. He needs one more rack. He's leading 8-6. Oscar Dominguez on the hill now against Danny King. Really dominant there. It's 8-1 and 5-all between Nikos Economopoulos and Riku Rompinen. Robbie Capito going well. He leads Stephen Ellis 7-4. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, who had to come through a real battle to stay in the championship, having gone over to the loser's side yesterday. He was 2-0 up against David Zalman of the Czech Republic. It's now 2-2. Oscar Dominguez has now won against Danny King. 9-1, that's finished. Just to correct that, actually, it wasn't Filler who led 3-2, it was Reinhold, and then Filler levelled. But Reinhold back in front now.
Does the one ball past the 6? If it doesn't, he could play the bank shot. That's what he's played, and he's got it.
Made his debut, as I said, in the Mosconi Cup in 2020 and did okay, and as much as any of the Americans did that week. And it wasn't too bad for him either. In London back in December, teamed up with Tyler Steyer to beat Alban Ocean and Eklund Kachi in the opening night, and that was enough to put the Americans into an early 2-0 lead. And then on the second night, he was playing with Jeremy Jones, who had to step in at the last minute as a playing captain, and it was really a crucial doubles match that they ended up losing against David O'Cady and Eklund Kachi, and that got Europe back to only 1 behind at the end of the second day. And having then lost to Jason Shaw in singles in the opening match of night 3, Reinhold played no further part. Hasn't run out from the break since the opening rack. But he's going to do it this time. Reinhold led 2-0 in this match. There's never been more than a rack in it either way since then until now. Chris Reinhold leads Pia Filler 5-3. Chris Alexander now 4-3 in front against Gary Wilson on the other table. So Reinhold will have his sights, Carl, I would expect, firmly fixed now and trying to pull away in this match. He knows if he gets a few racks in front, Filler's resolve might be broken. So a key stage in the match coming up here.
Yeah, when you're playing winner breaks, Pia's just got to sit there and be patient. She knows what can happen in the game of Nineball. She's had a couple of chances though. Well, there's a 3-9 combo, so it's all about the 1 and the 2 ball. It's going to be a quick rack, and I think Chris can pot this in the top right corner. So if he pots this, he's going to play it with a little bit of left, maybe stun it off the 2 rails back out into the centre of the table. Well, he could kill it off the one, so that's a job well done. And as we've just said, this 3-9 ball combination, well, it's pretty unmissable, to be fair.
Well, neither player has won 3 racks in a row yet in this match, and that could be just about to change here. Chris Reinhold starting to pull away. Only took him 4 shots to win that rack. And he goes 3 clear of Pia Filler at 6-3. Still keeping a very close eye on events on the other feature table. Chris Alexander 4-3 in front against Gary Wilson.
Been breaking well in this match. There you can see, got his hand on the table. And he's given him a good old whack as well. There you see, power break. That was the break that worked for Shane Van Bonen, the world champs. But the one ball is tied up on the 7. Yeah, he can play a push, but he won't do it. He's going to try and play a good safety shot. Chose to go rail first, and that's, well, it's not worked out how he would have liked. So he's give the initiative over to Pia Filler. She can play off the edge of it and use the 7 and the 9 as blockers. Just get the cue ball near this left corner pocket where she's stood.
Time's running out for her in this match.
So she's used the 7 ball. Oh, has he been fortunate? I don't think he has. I think Pia might just be able to see the potting angle.
Meanwhile, for the 2nd day in a row, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz in real danger of going out of the championship altogether. He was 2-0 up against David Zalman of the Czech Republic, but he's now trailing by 5 racks to 2. It's been an eventful championship already for FSR.
Some players are just going to breeze through these rounds. Other players, well, they're going to have to grind and go through the mill. Oh, Pia, it's another mistake. She's just fading away in this match, isn't she?
That's exactly what it is, isn't it? She was keeping close and keeping competitive early on, but now that she's finding herself a few racks behind, that was a very, very bad sign indeed. And of course, she's sending just the sort of messages that she doesn't want to send to Chris Reinhold. And the thing is, in a match like this for Pia Filler, she's not coming in with massive expectations. Anything she achieves is a bonus, so she can take defeat if that's what ultimately happens. But what any player really hates is when they know they've had chances and not done themselves justice. And that's been the story for Pia Filler for a lot of this match. 4-all now on the other feature table between Gary Wilson and Chris Alexander.
Yeah, even in these situations where the balls look easy, you know, Chris is not going to rush these things. It's just his style of play. It's not so much that he's slow, it's more that he's just deliberate and kind of just floats around the table, doesn't he? Without a care in the world.
Yeah, he knows he's in control of this match now. No need to rush, no need to take any unnecessary risks with the way he's approaching us. And again, it's a tale of missed opportunity for Pia Filler. She had arguably her worst miss of the whole match in this rack, and Chris Reinhold is set to extract full price for that. And at 7-3, he's now just 2 racks away from victory.
Yeah, let's not forget it was 3-3 this match.
John Ballard, one of the British contingent, going really well against the Dutchman, Tim Jonkman. It's 5-0 in that one. David Zalman, as I was saying, leading 5-2 against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Potentially a very big story building there. JJ Fall of South Africa now leading 7-4, starting to pull away against Kingo Rauk. And Mateusz Sniegocki level at 2-2 with Dimitrios Loukatos. So there are the stories going on around the other tables right now. Nikos Economopoulos in a bit of danger, 5-7. He trails against Riku Romponen of Finland.
Again, the power break from Chris. Yeah, just sort of lost the cue ball over to that side rail. That's going to make this shot awkward. Yeah, I mean, he can pop the 1 ball in the top left. But how do you get on the 2? It looks like it's going to run into the 5 or the 7.
Played that well, and we were talking earlier about how he is highly rated by a lot of people on the American scene. He has been for a number of years, since he started to do well as a young player. So what do you think it's going to take, Carl, in an event like this where you've got pretty much all the top players here and a lot of matches needed to get through to the later stages? If he could get to a quarter-final, maybe even a last 16 of something like this, is that what he needs to try to kick on and start really delivering on his potential?
Yeah, I believe so, and also I think he needs to beat a big name player as well. Because with, you know, whoever wins these type of events, or goes deep, you know, it's not, you know, there's only one person going to win at the end of the day. So even if you go deep, you've got to beat a big name, haven't you? And we all know if he beats Pia now, he's going to be playing Joshua Filler next, and there's no bigger name than that. So that's going to be the true test for Chris.
Yeah, and he's used to playing players of that calibre from his experience of the Mosconi Cup in the last couple of years. So that's a challenge he's got to try to relish. Got to get there first, of course, but he is closing in on it now. There's a bit of a struggle early on, and with a little bit of assistance from Pia Filler, seems to be finding his best form as we move towards the finish.
Just let the cue ball run a little there, because now he's going to be jacked up over it. So this is really going to be the only thing that's going to save Pia. If he pots this, he's won the rack. Yeah, and that's going to be good enough, because you can see where the 8's sat. The 8 is sat perfect to get on the 9. I kind of felt this match was going to go close, and it delivered in the early stages.
Well, it was an eventful start to the match. The first few racks, all sorts of things happening. But it's becoming a bit of a procession now for Chris Reinhold. He would have come here expecting a tough battle, I think, against Pia Filler. He's not getting it at the moment, though. Reinhold in total control. And on the hill, he leads 8-3. Riku Rompinen of Finland is on the hill. He leads Nikos Economopoulos of Greece 8-5. That'll be a really good scalp to pull off. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, as I was telling you, 5-2 down against David Zalman. That's still the score there. Vincent Fake, man who's been around a very long time, played Mosconi Cup back in the 90s. It's a 2-0 lead over Tobias Bolt of Britain. And Mateusz Sniegocki trailing 3-2 against Dimitrios Loukatos, dangerous opponent from Greece. Chris Alexander on the other featured table needs 7, 8 and 9 to go 2 clear of Gary Wilson at 6-4. Chris Reinhold, meanwhile, just needs one more rack to go through to the next round.
Yeah, he's not holding back on the break, but he keeps leaving the cue ball over on that side rail. Maybe he's purposely trying to do that, knowing that the 1 ball comes round off 2 rails. I don't know. But this looks like a chance. 3 ball on the 7. Looks like it needs a little bit of work. It's very hard for us to see certain angles and how the balls are sat from just this camera angle. He's got the best view. Michael, it's the boss's birthday today. Emily Fraser, happy birthday.
Is it really?
It is. So
she's kept that quiet.
I'm presuming you didn't get her a present then?
Well, I'm going to have to now, haven't I? I've not seen her all day. It would be very impolite, of course, to discuss her actual age. Put it this way, she's a lot younger than either of us.
Steady on. Now, is he trying to pot the 7? He is. It's a nice shot. He actually hit it on the opposite side of what would deem to be the combination. That throws the object ball the opposite way.
Well, let's be honest, Carl. I think we all would have liked to have seen the two Fillers play each other. We're not going to get that opportunity now. Of course, you've got to think, the more Pia Filler plays in these events, it may well happen eventually, but just as I was writing the last rites of this match, as so often happens, Chris Reinhold has unexpectedly missed the 3.
I think that's the one thing in his game what is stopping him kicking on to the next level. I mean, where has that come from? How do you miss that ball when you're 8-3 up and you played okay? Just maybe it's just a bit of a flaw in the fundamentals of his cue action.
Yeah, and he won't get away with things like that in the next round because Joshua Filler is so clinical, rarely misses anything that you don't expect him to. If he does get through, how much chance would you give him against Joshua Filler, who'd be a big outsider?
0. No, I'm not joking.
Right.
I don't mean to be that.
I should have switched off your mic after you said that, not giving you the chance to.
I'm just joking. No, I mean, of course he's got a chance, but he's going to need to get off to a great start because Josh, you know, is one of the best front runners you'll ever see in any sport. But I just think Chris does miss the odd silly ball, doesn't he? As we've seen here, this match should be over, but
okay, so here's a chance to at least prolong it. I'm glad you said more after saying 0 there, Carl, because I do remember once asking Mark Lawrenson when I was presenting a football match with him, when West Ham, whose stadium we're right next to here, were playing Manchester United, I said, how much chance have they got today? And he said, none. And they went out and beat Manchester United. So it's a dangerous game to play, that, writing off someone's chances. Oh, but that is just so demoralising for Pia Filler. Great chance there to get it back to 8-4.
yeah, this might be more awkward than it seems. He's got to go rail first. He's okay though. I knew he was going to flick the 8, but he's not done too much damage. So, second chance for Chris to finally put this match to bed.
Yeah, and we'll say it again, that's going to be the disappointing thing for Pia Filler. Not that she's lost, but that she hasn't done herself justice here. And after showing some good signs early on, responded well from 2-0 down when she got her chance off Reinhold's scratch at the start of the 3rd rack. She made it back to 2-2, but since then she's passed up so many opportunities. She's had some really bad misses. But so has Chris Reinhold. It's the match that refuses to end. Tell you what though, if he doesn't play a good deal better in the next round and cut out mistakes like that, I think his chances will be 0.
Well, this is what we've just been speaking about. I mean, where's that miss come from again? It's just bizarre. Well, I mean, it's not bizarre. Maybe that's just his level. Nice bank shot there from Pia. She's still alive in this match.
Yeah, that was good to produce that after what had happened on her previous visit to the table.
Cast your minds back to the Mosconi Cup. That ball that Chris Reinhold missed, that just changed the whole Mosconi Cup on its head, didn't it, for Team Europe?
What, in the doubles with Jeremy? Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the one match everyone pointed to as the key thing that started the turnaround in Europe's favour after the Americans had raised good hope. Well, it looks as though we're going to go into another rack anyway. Given some of the balls that Chris Reinhold is missing, Pia Filler still just feel there's a glimmer of hope about this, but she's going to have to raise her level as well. somehow, after everything that's happened in that 12th rack, she's managed to win it and keeps the match going. Reinhold still on the hill, but it's now 8-4. Nikos Economopoulos has been beaten 9-5 by Riku Romponen. Chris Alexander on the other featured table, now leading 6-5. Real close tussle with Gary Wilson, as it's been all the way. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has got a couple of racks back. He was 2-0 up against David Zalman of the Czech Republic. He then lost 5 in a row, but he's now won the last 2, so he's one behind now at 5-4. Bizarre Spahiu of Albania leading Alex Montpellier from France 3-1. JJ Fall of South Africa on the hill now at 8-4 against Kinga Rauk. And just as I say that, he's completed victory at 9-4. Vincent Fake, veteran Frenchman, still going nicely with a 4-0 lead over Tobias Bolt. Mateusz Sniagotsky trailing 4-2 against Dimitrios Loukatos of Greece. So you're up to date now on what's going on everywhere else. Loho Sun could be on course for a surprise defeat. He's 5-3 down against Clint Jansson of Britain. Robert Braga of Romania, 7-4. He leads Niels Johanning of Germany.
Pia's going to need a good shot here. It was a good break, it was a good split, but now she's got to pot this and get the cue ball back up table for this 3. Seen earlier on, when she played a draw shot, she just underhit it. Oh, that's nice indeed, just to miss the 9.
Well, she hasn't had a run out from the break yet in this match. Given some of the balls Reinhold is missing, if she can finish this here and just give herself that little boost, she's bound to start thinking she can still do this. She just seems to be freeing herself up a bit more in this rack. It's like you were saying though, Carl, that we talked about her deliberate style, but when the ball's split nicely and they're there for the taking, she does find a bit more fluency.
Yeah, in a winner breaks format, you just never know. She's just got to ask Chris some questions. That's all she can do. She can get it back to 8-6 without Chris having a shot. Things are going to get a little dicey out there.
Yeah, and asking that question of Chris Reinhold, whose temperament at times has looked suspect. This is quite definitely not over yet. 2 in a row for Pia Filler and a break and run for the first time in the match, getting her back to 8-5 down. Now let's see how Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is getting on. He had close to 5-4 down, and he's now levelled actually at 5-all against David Zalman. He's really been on a tightrope throughout this championship. Chris Cowie leading Kristina Zlateva 4-0. And Robert Braga on the hill now at 8-4 against Niels Johanning. So not a huge amount has changed in those few minutes. That was quite a short rack. Okay, let's see if Pia Filler can keep this going. She needed 6 in a row. She's got 2 of them.
There you see, the magic rack is helping the weaker breakers because the wing ball should always go in. But that doesn't mean you know where the balls are going to go. So this is difficult. pink 4 and the 9 balls tied up. Purple 5 doesn't pass the green 6, and she can't pot the 1. Maybe she'll try and just draw the cue ball in behind the purple and the green, or she might play off the right edge and stick the 1 there.
It's now 6-all between Gary Wilson and Chris Alexander. Fascinating tussle, that one.
Yeah, the last rack over on table 2, I was watching it on the screen in front of me, and Gary Wilson missed a really easy combo, and he got so lucky to hook Chris, and that's why it's 6-6 over there.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's been more than a rack in it either way at any stage of that match. Meanwhile, back here, that's not gone to plan for Pia Filler. Opportunity knocks here for Chris Reinhold.
Missed 2 or 3 balls for this match, though.
Well, he's got it, but it wasn't exactly a shot that looked filled with confidence.
It's going to be all about the purple 5 this rack.
Yeah, and you feel if this shot works out for him, that really should be the end of it.
Striking down on the cue ball. This is fraught with danger. It was fraught with danger. Where's he going to finish? He's going to need a little love. And he's got that. It could have gone anywhere.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that 4 rolls, maybe even one more rotation closer to that pocket. This could have been a great chance. Reinhold, you can tell from his body language there, he knows he hasn't got this job done yet by any means, and he's feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously a very hard shot he was attempting. I'm wondering, can Pia play the bank and just try and get the cue ball out to leave a thin snip on the 5?
It's an anxious face we saw there, wasn't it? Chris Reinhold sitting in his chair.
I don't know, is she playing the bank? She's not. She's biding her time. Maybe she was trying to use the 7 as well, just didn't execute it quite as planned. This is one of Chris's strengths, though, the safety play. He always seems quite strong in that department. Josh, you don't want your wife to win. Don't sit there pretending. You don't want to play her. We know. You're cheering Chris on.
Well, there was a match in the British Open snooker last year between Mark Allen and Rhiann Evans, who were former partners, had a child together. And that was fraught with a lot of tension, shall we say. But this would be a completely different scenario, of course. I mean, Joshua and Filler seem out, and Pia rather seem absolutely mad about each other. But for very different reasons. It's a match neither of them will want to see.
It's a thin one if she's going to attempt the pot. She might have a go at it. She knows she's going to get distance regardless. Oh, she's using the 7 ball again. This time it looks to better effect, but it's not quite there again, so bit of cat and mouse at the minute. Well, what a shot he's played there. That just shows you how quick these tables are. I didn't think that was going to make it, but Pia's in trouble here. She's locked behind the 9. She may be able to just put a little bit of swerve on it and go rail first. Well, that's not going to be easy to get safe. And after contacting this pink 4, a ball needs to hit a rail. Let's not forget that. That's only if she doesn't pop the ball. That's the only reason why. She'd like to kick the cue, the 4 ball up table and try and stick the cue ball behind the 7. There you see, it was going towards the 7. 6 ball might help. 6 ball might help. Yeah, it was always going that sort of direction. She looks a bit despondent, but that was the kind of path I visioned.
She's not letting go in this match. She won't have given up hope of winning it, you can be sure of that.
Yeah, when you play a race to 9, 8-5s, you know, the 4's close. He knows this was going to go close as well. He's played that. It stayed over the pocket though. Yeah, we're just saying, when it's 8-5 in a race to 9, you know, you've only got to win 4 racks, but it's not just winning 4 racks. It's literally just try and get it to 8-6, and when it's 8-6, it almost feels like it's hill-hill when you're both playing a match like that. That's the beauty of this. 8-5, still game on this.
It is, but perhaps not for much longer. She's got to get this right. If she does, and of course, needs a bit of help from the cue ball.
Yes, all she's got to do here is play it pocket speed. She doesn't want to be playing this too hard because she's not going to get on the 5 regardless. So make sure you pick the correct line. And what's key here is make sure you don't put any spin on this cue ball. Find your line and try and hit centre ball.
So you reckon just get the 4 and then try and play good safety on the 5?
Yeah, she's got to stay at the table here. That's all she's got to do. Just make sure you pop that ball and then take your medicine. I don't know what she's like with the bridge, so this is going to make things interesting.
Well, whatever about that, I think she's using it on its side, which is a whole other challenge in itself.
This is where switching hands would be very useful. Oh, what a shot from Pia Filler. That's going to do the highlight reel a world of good.
And maybe she's going to have a shot at the 5 after all. Reinhold must be thinking, if only that 4 had taken one more roll and just dropped in. You can see there how close it was to doing so. And he'd probably have cleared up by now and be through to the next round. I don't know why she's rushing. There's no shot clock. It's pure instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a fair point. It's probably just ingrained in your mind, isn't it? Oh, this is delightful. This is delightful. This is going to go 8-6.
Well, those last 2 shots could simply not have gone any better for her. Well, everything that's gone on here over the last 20 minutes or so is just what Chris Reinhold doesn't need in terms of facing a psychological test. It's a match he was a big favourite to win. He had a big lead. He's had chances to finish it off. He hasn't been able to take them. And now he is under so much pressure. Big questions being asked of the American now. Pia Filler is right in this. She needed to win 6 in a row. She's halfway towards doing it. Reinhold's lead reduced to 8-6. Well, how's he going to be feeling now, Carl? He's had so many opportunities to get this done from such a strong position. And now he knows very well this is a match he could quite definitely end up losing.
Yeah, the nature of pool, what it does to you is it gives you a bit of a weird feeling inside, because you've played many matches over the years where you feel like you've not done much wrong and lost. So whenever you get that opportunity to win a pool match, if you don't take it, you're under the gun. And believe me, 8-6, he's going to need some help off the balls now. He's going to need a real easy split or a real easy layout to get out, because things are going to get dicey now. Pia's got to try and think clever and think smart. Don't just give it him. You know, don't try and play a genius safety shot. Just split the balls. Let him earn the win. Pay attention to the red 3. That's the ball that should go in the corner. Often when a pool player doesn't possess power on the break, watch the 1 ball. Hits this side rail and always stops in the middle of the top rail. Did on her last break, and it's done it again. And that's just because she's probably not got enough power to get that 1 ball moving around the table. So it's going to be another safety. But this is what I was talking about. She's just got to play smart now. Don't do anything silly. Don't just hand it Chris on a plate. We all want to see Filler versus Filler. Come on. Well, I do.
I think it might just make it onto the main table if it happens.
So what she's done here, she's used the purple 5 and the green 6 as target balls. And she's done a good job there.
Earlier on in the match, when Chris Reinhold was building a substantial lead and finding his form, playing with quite a bit of fluency, everything seemed to be coming in quite a straightforward fashion. But now, with all that's happened, every time he comes to the table, he must only be capable of seeing problems.
Well, we said he were going to need a little love off the pool balls, and boy, has he had a slice of luck there. He's hit that ball all wrong. Nearly scratched and hooked Pia behind the 8. That is incredible. Gary Wilson, Chris Alexander, they're playing on our other stream table. It's tied at 7-7. There's been a lot of talk about the snooker players playing this week. 3 snooker players entered the UK Open. 2 have lost, and they're in the losers side of the draw. Gary's the only remaining snooker player who remains undefeated. This is a smart move from Pia. She's getting the jump cue. She doesn't really know what's going to happen. She's just going to try and create a bit of distance. There's a lot of balls down the bottom end of the table, so she's got a good chance of something good happening in her favour. Here we go. How's it going to finish? We spoke about all these balls. Oh, and it's not come good for Pia. Is this the 3rd or 4th chance Chris has had for the match, Michael?
Something like that, maybe even more. But of course, nothing at all can be taken for granted. His mind must be in turmoil at the moment.
Oh my, the wheels are falling off.
Well, I mean, that's just absolutely terrible, isn't it, from Chris Reinhold? And of course, what kind of message does that send to Pia Filler? Shows her that she succeeded in asking these tough psychological questions of him. She's got in his head now.
Yeah, not only Pia Filler, sending a message to Joshua Filler, because he's sat on the sidelines watching, and if you don't know by now, Josh plays the winner of this match.
I think you've got to go down and tap him on the shoulder, get him up here, put a microphone in his hand. I'd absolutely love to know what Josh is thinking at the moment about all this. Must have so many different emotions. Obviously cheering on his wife, his #1 supporter, who he always gives so much credit to. But also seeing what's turning into a mental implosion from his Mosconi Cup adversary. And all in the background is the knowledge that he plays the winner.
Key shot coming up. Is she going to play for the purple 5 up into the top left pocket, or does she have the angle to go through the gap and play it in the bottom left pocket? They are Pia's 2 options. She's playing the cue ball high, so she's tried to go through the gap. This looks tricky though. This does look tricky. Can she spin this ball in and avoid hitting the 9? That's the path it's going to take with loads of bottom right English. She's going to have to get into this ball a lot as well. Wow, she's got into that beautiful, absolute beautiful shot.
And you know, there's no question about it. Although they've both had their struggles, she is coping with the situation and the closeness of the match and what's at stake significantly better than her opponent.
Yeah, I mean, that shot there, she really had to get the spin on the cue ball. She had to hit it soft as well, because it slides off the rail.
We were talking about the message that Reinhold was sending with his dreadful miss at the start of this rack. Well, Filler can reinforce that by sending her own message back. If you do things like that, this is what I'm going to do to you. And that's only going to make it harder for Reinhold to turn around his growing psychological turmoil.
So Pia needs these 3 balls to make 8-7, and it's just gone 8-7 on table 2. Chris Alexander is the first man to get to 8 against Gary Wilson. Who'd have thought we would be staring down this match going 8-7? Oh, she's played a loose one there though. I'm surprised she didn't just kill the cue ball and play the 8 past the 9.
There was a lot of visible tension in that shot.
She needs one good shot, just pop the ball, 9 goes in every single pocket, so don't worry about that. And it's there. It is there. 8-3. Chris Reinhold had a chance for this match, an easy chance as well.
Yep, and he had a good chance in this rack. You have to say he blew it. Is he going to blow the match altogether? Pia Filler taking her time. Making absolutely sure of this 9-ball. 4 in a row for her. She needs 2 more to pull off a massive story here. Well, we saw a wonderful match on the main table yesterday. Ashik Nathwani was leading 6-0 against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He trailed 7-6, he came back to lead 8-7, then FSR took the last 2 racks to get through. That, for me, was the best match we've seen on the main table so far. This may well be in the process of overtaking it. If you are just joining us, Chris Reinhold, member of the last 2 US Mosconi Cup teams, was leading 8-3 against Pia Filler, having won 5 racks in a row at that stage, and has had several chances to get the job done since then. Hasn't managed to take them. And Pia Filler has closed to just 1 behind at 8-7 and looks to be handling the situation much better. Now it's also 8-7 on the other table. But look at this situation Gary Wilson's in. Caught in the jaws, got to find a way to the 5. And knows that 1 wrong move here could be his last, and he could be heading for the loser's side.
Just make sure you hit the ball, Gary. That's all you can do. If you miss this ball, you're going to lose.
Well, he has hit it, but likelihood is he's going to lose from here anyway.
Yeah, Chris has just got to hold himself together now.
Yeah, well, he's left the arena for a few moments. Not surprising, really. He's got to find a way of composing himself. Shocking miss from him early in that 15th rack.
Well, Chris Alexander has played a shocker there. He's going to be feeling it though. You know, he's coming to this event. He's not a big known name. He wants to try and go deep and get himself in the mix. And he knows, he'll know Gary Wilson, obviously professional snooker player. Cue ball from here looks like it's going to hit the 9.
We've seen it on both tables, aren't we, Carl? Just the challenge of getting over the line. You can play all the good shots to get yourself into that position, but there's still that psychological hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, and you probably see this more at this kind of level, not the top tier player, but you know, it does happen.
So we'll keep you posted on that. Chris Alexander trying to solve his conundrum on the 7. Looking for just 1 more rack to get through. Pia Filler. She's won 4 in a row. She trails 8-7.
Let's see if she can get this 1 ball moving. Okay.
Well, that'll help get it moving. Now, what's she got?
Well, she's not going to have a lot.
No.
Well, if she can see the potting angle, that's not... I'm not saying this is easy, but as long as she can see the potting angle of this 2, she'll have something to work with. we have the pleasure of seeing both screens for both tables, and both of these matches are at 8-7, and it's turning into a tasty battle out there.
It's one of those days when you don't know where to look because there's so much going on around the place. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz was 5-2 down to David Zalman of the Czech Republic. He's now leading 7-5. Loho Sum has turned it round against Clint Janssen of Britain. He's now 8-5 in front. Mateusz Sniagotsky 7-4 up on Dimitrios Loukatos.
She needs a little bit of fortune here. If it holds up, no, it's not going to, but you know, we've seen Chris make mistakes. This is not over yet.
Oh, by no means. You wouldn't back him to do anything at the moment.
Table 2 is over though. Gary Wilson scratched in the last stages of that rack, so Chris Alexander beats the snooker player.
Yep, 9-7, that one finished. Now, can Chris Reinhold just forget about everything that's gone before and summon up one last big effort?
Yeah, that's a good shot under the circumstances. Been around Q Sports a long time, pretty much all my life, and since I got into 9-ball, with me living in England, I've heard a lot of the English 8-ballers and the snooker players kind of look down the nose a little bit at 9-ball, thinking it's that game with the big pockets. But you're all getting beat off the 9-ballers.
Could have done with getting into that one a bit more. He's leaving himself one tester after another. You can almost tell what he's thinking. Please just let it be over. Just get it done.
Needs the cue ball to slow down. I think he can just roll this in the left centre and send the cue ball off the bottom rail. Well, he didn't fancy the angle there, did he? So he's had to go down the table. I think he's done enough though, Michael, at last.
It looks like he might just have survived it. Well, you won't see many more relieved winners than this. Chris Reinhold was 8-3 up. Pia Filler got it all the way back to 8-7. But she gave Chris Reinhold a chance to get it finished.